Watch me whip, watch me nay-nay. Today we're going to be talking about Comedown, which is what I would consider to be the leading single off of my album, June. I want to talk about the guitar first. The tuning of the song is E, A, D, F sharp, B, B. This is a half step down right now, but you'll get the idea. One of the main things I wanted to sound like was Johnny Resnick. His guitar playing was a huge band of my formative years was the Goo Goo Dolls. It's always seemed like he had his guitars in this tuning where, whether, a lot of different kinds of tunings, but it had like multiple strings ringing out the same note. And it just sounded really big and larger than life. I wanted to go in that direction. If you're a songwriter and you're wanting to write your own songs, which I encourage you to do that. So one thing that would give some movement to your song is changing the bass notes to be constantly moving to other stuff, even if your song is using effectively the same two chords. One option that I could have done, but it would have sounded really boring, would have just been done this. Just go back and forth and not change it. But to give this like constantly upward climbing sound, I wanted it to sound like, all right, we're on the roller coaster. We're going up and up and up and up, and it's just getting more and more exciting. That was the idea anyway. Even though these chords are basically a 1 and a 4 back to back over and over again. In the bass, I'm having it go 1, 4, 5, 6. So then it makes it sound like it's kind of like you're climbing up the mountain. So this is the riff. But to me, that sounded much more, I don't know, it had a lot more character to it than just the simple 1 and 4. Also, these guys kind of had that chimey Goo Goo Dolls thing going on. So the song itself, I think you kind of get the gist of it. So used to the Comedown. Well, I personally feel like I kind of wrote this album for anyone who was going through that season of their life. June, to me, is if you are a single person and you really want to be in a relationship, but nothing is working out, and you're really, 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 really sick of being in that season, and you're just like, I want this to be over. I want some resolution, please. You're kind of torn between, I know I shouldn't be depending on having a relationship to be satisfied in my life, but at the same time, I really, really want one. And I'm like torn between these two things. I know that I should just be happy with just life and living, and that's great, but also I have this deep desire to be in a relationship, and I keep getting my heart broken, or I'm breaking other people's hearts. It's just this big hurricane of mess, and I'm an emotional mess, and I need help. If that's you, if you resonate with any of that, this album is for you. That's who I wrote it for, mainly just from a lot of personal experience. So Comedown, I think, is a kind of a spearhead on a lot of those themes for the record. A book that really influenced me, and if you've seen the music video, you've probably seen this book in it as a little Easter egg. Samson and the Pirate Monks, written by Nate Larkin. I have a personal story that someday I think when I'm comfortable to share everything in a public setting, I'll do that. But the book is a really great book and delves into some pretty deep stuff, maybe some uncomfortable things for some people. But there's a quote in here that really inspired me, and it just like stuck with me, and it still sticks with me now. And it inspired a lot of the lyrics for this song. So I'll read you this paragraph. Most of us are slow to recognize that we have lost the war against our besetting sin. We deceive ourselves about the progress of that war, taking false comfort in inconsequential successes, distracting ourselves with elaborate battle plans, and issuing orders to internal forces we cannot control. Our losses continue to mount, affecting everyone around us, but we ignore them. We imagine that we are fighting the good fight against sin, but the battle is already lost. All that remains is the formality of surrender and the opportunity, the wondrous alternative of surrendering to God instead. With Comedown, I talk a lot about, or the chorus is talking about living with an open hand, kind of like this, instead of grasping for control at all costs. And talking about losing the war, turns out I've already lost the war. But the better alternative is understanding that I had no power to win the war on my own. But I can surrender to God because he already won the battle for me. I can still sit there and admit how much pain I'm in. And it doesn't have to end with a pretty bow, wrapped on the present and just be really nice and pretty with all the answers at the end. The song ends with like, I am so used to the come down. It's kind of one of those like, come hell or high water, I'm going to try and take the better path forward. I'm going to try and take the healthy path forward, but I'm just going to be honest, God, that I feel discouraged and I don't really feel like this is going to work, but I'm going to try anyway. Come Down is ultimately a hopeful song. Musically, I really like the way that we mixed this one and it came out. It sounds really big to me. Using open tunings, I would say that. I can't get enough of open tunings. Anybody who plays a guitar and you're like, something, I need to spice up this song somehow. Standard tuning's just not cutting it. Mess around with an open tuning. And you got to kind of fiddle with finding where your chords are and stuff, but it just always sounds cool, every time. Especially when you layer stuff. Like we did the acoustic. It was a J45 I recorded that on. You're doing it again. You did it again. Look. And then we used like a Les Paul and a Stratocaster with big distortion and panned those. And then with that combo, you just get a big wall of sound. And then mix that in there with skip beat attitude drums. I don't know what you call that. Anyone who knows me is like, yep, this is a very Josh. This is a very Josh beat. I love Hunter Jackson. He's the guy that plays drums for me a lot. But he's amazing. He'll tell me stuff like, yeah, this has a Josh fill in there, which just means like blah 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 blah. It's big flams and just they're fun. It's fun to play. Oh, I have a story to tell. So if you've seen the music video, Watson the cat. Watson the cat belongs to Reagan, who's my wife's one of her like best buddies and one of my friends too. The story goes, the music video happened and it was all fictional. That Watson got lost. So fast forward to months after the music video had come out, the album's already out. It is like the day of my wedding rehearsal. And people are coming into town. My friends are all there. And I was tasked with taking care of Watson. Watson had just gotten a flea bath. He was in a crate, but he was allowed to roam in the house because Reagan was like, hey, I've got to get ready for all this wedding stuff. She was organizing the flowers and everything. Had a lot on her plate. She was like, guys, I need y'all to take care of Watson so that I can just not think about that and do all my stuff over here. And we said 10-4, sounds good. The night of that, so like we have Watson and there's that night. I'm getting ready to get married. I'm already kind of like stressed with just all the big to-do about getting married. There's like a ton of stuff. Obviously a great thing to do, but there's a lot going on. So then in the middle of the night, Watson is just going crazy. He's a crazy person. I'm trying to sleep. You can imagine that. And then through the door, you hear. I would love to say that I handled it perfectly and I had perfect patience, but I didn't. And it was like 2, 3 in the morning. And like I said, Watson had his crate. It's not unheard of for an animal to like sit in a crate sometimes. Okay, so what I did was I said, Watson, you are going crazy and I'm not able to sleep. I'm going to set you in your crate, okay? And then I'm going to set you outside so you at least have some fresh air because this is killing me. I don't think I was that gracious. I think I was probably like, you need to shut up. And then I just put him in the crate thing and then whatever. So, and then I set him outside. And then I went back to bed and fell asleep almost immediately. So I get up the next morning. I'm like, I'm not going to leave him out there for a long time. So I get up the next morning at like 7. I get out there and the door of the crate was broken open. Something very bad has happened. Watson has escaped. He summoned the strength of 40 men and pried open the door of this thing. So then obviously my heart sinks all the way down to my feet. And I'm like, I am a terrible person. I'm an awful person. This is the worst thing I've ever done. Not only that, it's the day of my wedding rehearsal. Everyone is going to hate me for what I've done. We go searching for Watson. The entire day, he is missing. I'm driving all over town. I think I went for like a 2 hour run slash, desperate search. And keep in mind, it's like April in Alabama, so it's like 98 degrees outside, very humid. So I'm running around. He is nowhere to be found. I eventually realized, I'm like, I think he's in the woods behind the house. That would make the most sense because it would be silly for him to just run out in the road. So I go looking in the woods for like 2 hours, spraying myself with all the deep woods bug spray and stuff. And I see him, and I just see him like scurrying along, and he has this little meow like meow meow. He's trying to communicate with you, but he was scared. Eventually, we do the wedding rehearsal and all that stuff, and I'm just like putting all of that in the back of my brain and just not thinking about it. And even Reagan was like, "Don't stress about it. He's an outside cat a lot of the time, so he'll be fine, and he'll just come back. So don't lose your mind over it." And sure enough, I got back later that night, and Watson came back, and he's safe and sound, all good. That's the story of how I actually lost Watson. As I was searching, my buddy Caleb was like, he's like, that you like prophesied this over yourself, that this was going to happen. And the whole time I'm just kicking myself. I'm like, man, I really did do this. We went all the way to the point of making a whole music video about this. And then it happened. And it was my fault. What are the odds?